You're doing 130 miles an hour into a corner. Your foot finds the brake pedal, and it just keeps going. No resistance. No bite. Nothing pushes back. The wall is still there. The corner is still coming. And the one thing that was supposed to stop you has disappeared under your foot. Now do that for 350 laps. This isn't a stunt from a racing movie. This happened days ago, in a real NASCAR Cup Series event, to the points leader of the entire championship. And when it was finally over, he said something out loud that nobody in that garage expected to hear. This is Denny Hamlin, and this is the Iowa Corn 350 at Iowa Speedway, a weekend that was supposed to be a quiet points day for the championship leader. Before we go further, if you're new here at NASCAR Voltage, we're closing in on 500 subscribers, and every single one of you gets us closer. If breakdowns like this keep you locked in, hit subscribe, drop a like, and leave a comment. Your support is what keeps this channel building content like this. Now, back to Iowa. Hamlin's weekend was already collapsing before the green flag ever dropped. He qualified 29th, nowhere near where a championship leader is supposed to start. That alone would have been a bad day. But qualifying wasn't even the real story. Brad Keselowski spun and crashed during qualifying, sending his car to overnight repairs. Chase Elliott hit the outside wall in practice, was patched back together, and could only manage 32nd on the grid. Both drivers were sent to the rear of the field for unapproved adjustments made after their incidents. Then came the gut punch. NASCAR ruled that Hamlin's own team had made an unapproved change to the car's cooling unit overnight. The result, the man leading the NASCAR Cup Series championship standings was sent to the very back of a 36-car field, joining Keselowski and Elliott at the rear. Veteran reporter Dustin Long confirmed it in real time, reporting that NASCAR had ruled Hamlin was also going to the rear for unapproved adjustments, joining the other two penalized drivers. But the grid penalty turned out to be the smaller problem. The real danger had already shown up a day earlier, and it wasn't cosmetic. Multiple Toyota teams, cars from Joe Gibbs Racing and 23XI Racing, were fighting cracking, overheating brakes throughout the entire weekend. It wasn't just Hamlin. His teammate Chase Briscoe was dealing with the same nightmare. Briscoe's crew chief, James Small, described his brake pads afterward in blunt terms, essentially destroyed. Riley Herbst and Bubba Wallace of 23XI faced versions of the same issue. Before the race had even started, Hamlin was on record saying the car, in its current state, simply could not race. His brake pedal had gone straight to the floor twice during Saturday practice, once after just 2 laps. By lap 3 of the actual race, it happened again. The brakes were gone. Here is where the story stops being about one bad weekend and becomes an argument about the rulebook itself. NASCAR's position was rigid, and it was rigid on purpose. Under the sport's rules, teams are not permitted to swap brake pads mid-weekend unless the manufacturer, PFC Brakes, formally notifies NASCAR of a defective product. That notification never came. Teams were allowed to bleed the brake lines and swap out cracked rotors, both are treated as safety measures and carry no penalty, but the pads themselves, which is where the actual problem lived, were off limits. The reasoning behind the rule is straightforward. If NASCAR let every team change pads whenever a driver reported discomfort, it would open the door to a qualifying pad and a separate race pad, with 36 teams across the garage claiming safety concerns every time they wanted a performance edge instead of a genuine one. Hamlin's side of it hit differently. He said he went to the NASCAR hauler and laid out his case directly, at one point floating the idea of refusing to go back out on the track. According to Hamlin, NASCAR's answer was that it would create a harsher penalty than the one he was trying to avoid if he changed the pads anyway under green. A sitting championship leader, telling NASCAR he had a safety concern, and being told the exception wasn't an exception, it was a bigger fine. For the rest of the afternoon, Hamlin never knew how his car would behave entering a single corner. He described managing the braking pressure lap after lap, pumping the pedal down every straightaway just to try to rebuild some stopping power before the next turn, with no way to predict how much grip he'd actually have when he got there. Outside voices weighed in too. Former crew chief and broadcaster Steve Letarte raised a pointed question about what happens the next time this scenario plays out, not with a 5-time Iowa veteran fighting for a top 5 finish, but with a backmarker who has nothing to lose and gets hurt because the rulebook offered zero flexibility. Letarte argued the sport risks losing sight of who the rules are ultimately meant to protect if a team is forced to keep a potentially dangerous part simply because there's no built-in escape route. And then the story complicates itself again, because nobody here is a clean villain. Hamlin's own team has pushed publicly for the rule to change, while at the same time acknowledging that NASCAR has enforced this exact policy consistently across every team in the garage, not just the number 11 car. That's what makes this a real argument and not a hit piece. Both sides have a legitimate case, and neither one is backing down. It wasn't just Hamlin's fight, either. Hours before the race, Kyle Larson was already going after a separate NASCAR procedure, the long delays tied to stage-ending cautions. Larson had been critical of the old process for months, describing the wait for the stage sequence to play out as pointless once a caution flag came out near the end of a stage. Two completely different complaints, aimed at two completely different rules, but pointing at the same underlying frustration, that NASCAR's rulebook can feel rigid in exactly the moments drivers need it to bend. The chaos didn't stop there. Tyler Reddick, who had led the championship standings by as much as 129 points earlier in the season, crashed out on lap 4 after getting loose and collecting Erik Jones, ending both of their days early. It was Reddick's third DNF of the year, and it dropped him to 4th in the standings, now 120 points behind Hamlin. For Jones, who had entered the weekend just 44 points outside the playoff cut line, the crash was a near-fatal blow to his postseason chances with only a handful of races left in the regular season. Now, here's the moment that stopped the entire garage. After surviving all 350 laps, somehow dragging his car to a 5th-place finish on brakes he never trusted for a single corner, Hamlin was asked to reflect on the day. He said if every race were like that one, he would retire at the end of the year. Let that sit for a second. This is the points leader of the NASCAR Cup Series, a driver who has spent his career chasing a championship, saying out loud that a season full of days like this one wouldn't be worth finishing. The bigger picture only made the moment stranger. Hamlin's survival act at Iowa somehow widened his championship lead past the 100-point mark. He now holds a 103-point advantage, but not over Reddick, the driver who had spent most of the season chasing him. The gap is now over race winner Ty Gibbs, who leapfrogged into 2nd place in the standings after taking the checkered flag while Reddick's car sat behind the wall with front-end damage. With only 3 races left before the playoff field locks in, the margin separating a driver who makes the postseason from one who doesn't is razor-thin. For Erik Jones, that margin was already down to 44 points before his race ended on lap 4. If you're enjoying breakdowns like this one, the kind that actually dig into the rulebook instead of just recapping a finish, drop a comment telling us what storyline we should break down next, and share this one with a NASCAR fan who needs to see it. If you enjoy real NASCAR breakdowns like this, you'll like what's coming next. NASCAR's position hasn't moved, the rule stands, full stop, no exceptions for driver discomfort, no matter how dangerous the part feels from behind the wheel. Hamlin's position hasn't moved either, that rule turned his championship weekend into a 350-lap guessing game over whether his car would stop when he needed it to. Neither NASCAR, nor Hamlin, nor the crew chiefs pushing back on his behalf, have backed off their position. So here's the question nobody in that garage wants to answer out loud. If the points leader of the entire championship is telling you, on the record, that he didn't trust his brakes for 350 laps, how many other cars out there are 1 lap away from finding out the exact same thing the hard way?